Welcome to Conversations with Cuban, and thank you for joining me tonight. And thanks for supporting these weekly conversations. Listen, tonight is special. I'm talking with a celebrity tonight, y'all. There are people in your life you follow, and you know a lot about them, and they don't know a thing about you. Well, tonight is one of those guys. This guy is a very important part of my life, and he has no idea why, because we just met personally for the first time a couple of weeks ago. And anyway, I'll explain all that a little bit later. Again, thank you for joining me tonight. And maybe, just maybe, this is your first time joining the conversation. If so, I want to welcome you to the family. And yes, we do consider you family. My team and I are excited that you found your way here. And to our regular loyal viewers, thanks for all of the words of encouragement that you send to my inbox. Please keep those coming. We're also live right now on YouTube as we speak, and you can find all of our past conversations with all of our fabulous guests on my YouTube channel. Just look up Conversations with Cuban, and once you get there, subscribe and hit the like button. Please do a brother a favor. All right. Well, and we have some great conversations there. I'm telling you, some amazing folks. Trust me, you will not be disappointed. But right now, I need you to do me a favor and share tonight's conversation. Please don't keep this conversation to yourself. Share it with your community. It's important. Another thing, have you heard of Green Pasture Studios? Of course you have, especially if you've been watching this show, because Green Pasture Studios is in the movie making business. That's right. They do full-fledged movie production, commercials, and they even have a film training academy that teach people of all ages how to work in the film and movie industry. All of that is right here in Oklahoma City. The studio is located in Spencer, Oklahoma, and they give these weekly conversations a home in an extremely nice place to broadcast from. So look them up online. You won't be disappointed. But tonight, we have this conversation virtually because my guest is currently on the road, and his job requires him to be on the road a lot. So he has found some time of his busy schedule to sit down with us, and we want to take advantage of every opportunity. So we're doing this thing virtually, y'all, virtually. But before we jump in, I need to share with you my 3 simple goals for these weekly conversations. They're just 3, and they are simple. 1 is I want to add value to people and to my community. 2, I want to inspire you to believe in what people can become and communities can become when we're willing to work together. And 3, last but not least, love people, period. No strings attached. Just love people, right? All that means is I want you to be inspired. I want you to get useful information and resources. And I want to celebrate individuals, groups, and organizations who are making a positive impact on our community. Every conversation will be about information, inspiration, and hope. All right. Joining me tonight, this brother right here is Irv Roland. Irv Roland is a longtime basketball coach, player development specialist, player, and basketball trainer. He has spent at least 15 or plus years in the NBA as an assistant coach and player development coach with the Hornets, Rockets, Suns, Celtics, and now an assistant coach for the Utah Jazz. His dad and I are good friends. In fact, his dad is really a mentor of mine, and I spend a lot of time praying for this young man as I prayed with his father many, many times. So I feel like I know him already, and I've been wanting to have this conversation for at least 3 years now. So, ladies and gentlemen, would you welcome my son, my brother, my nephew? He don't even know it. My man, Irv Roland. Man, what's up? Thank you for coming in, man.
I appreciate you having me. How you doing this evening?
Man, I'm doing good. I wish I was dressed like you, but I hadn't got off work, and so I decided to dress like your dad.
Man, I just got off an airplane, so I ain't dressing like that on the plane. I'm good. Yeah.
Right. Hey, I'm not going to bring this up because it might be a sore spot, but when we met each other, you didn't probably leave here as happy as you look right now. I mean, the Thunder had a good time with your team, but we ain't talk about all that.
It's all good. It's all good. Part of the business.
That's good. So listen, you're from Oklahoma, and I want to prove it. I want to prove it. I mean, I know you're in LA. Last time, every time I feel like I hear more about you is when you're in LA, and all these other teams and stuff. So, but I know you're from here. So I want to ask you a couple of these rapid fire questions.
Okay.
To prove that you know Oklahoma, because only people would know these from Oklahoma would know these questions I'm asking you. Okay, you ready?
Okay.
Do you call it pop or soda?
I call it Nothing. I drink water, man. I haven't had that stuff in years. Probably pop when I was growing up, though.
Oh, that's right, because that's where it is in Oklahoma. So that's right.
Exactly.
And I'm sad that now I feel guilty that I'm getting ready to go have a Coke anyway. Okay.
Nah, don't do that. Don't do that.
Right. All right. Is it 235 or Broadway Extension?
Broadway extension. What are we talking about?
That's only okay. See, all right, here's the tough one. I need you to name the historical black high schools in Oklahoma City.
So it's funny because my parents went to Star Spencer, and Star Spencer right now would be considered a black school, pretty much all black. But half my classmates at Carl Albert High School, my white classmates, their parents went to Star Spencer. You know what I mean? And people don't recognize that. But I won't throw a star in there. Is Douglas one?
Okay, Douglas. Douglas is one. Are you? But you're not. You're getting them. Okay, go ahead. Any? You got another one?
There's how many are there total?
I think if you would allow some like if you would allow people to throw some leeway in there, they would count Star Spencer, and they
Yeah,
would count
Douglas,
Douglas. And then
Southeast,
Southeast? No, bro. No.
Northeast,
Yeah. Northeast?
Classen.
No.
Really?
No.
U.S. Grant?
No. No. Well, you went to Carlisle, but I'm gonna give you but the fact that you know all those schools
Yeah.
says that you're an Oklahoma guy.
What are the considered the black high schools in Oklahoma City?
Douglas,
I
Millwood.
said Millwood. Yeah, for sure, Millwood. That
For
was put
sure.
on there.
Really Millwood should have been the first one you said, but I'll give you a pass.
No, I'm more of a Douglas. Like if I had to choose between the two, I'm gonna be a Douglas guy before a Millwood guy. But
Really?
shout out to all the
We're having
Falcons.
we're having all kind of connection problems here. No,
No, shout out to all the
okay.
Falcons out there, but I'm gonna probably pick the Trojans before the Falcons.
Okay,
No
yeah.
disrespect.
Yeah. All the disrespect was taken though. But
My
okay.
bad.
So Millwood, Douglas, Star Spencer, and then Northeast, and then I think you can also throw in give some latitude to John Marshall.
The new John Marshall ain't.
Hey, man, hey, they hitting you in the DMs, not me. I mean,
Oh, okay.
hey,
Yeah, John Marshall too. Shout out to the Northside Bears.
right.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and I think I'm probably gonna catch some shade because I didn't count Southeast. But you know, they had black people go there, but that's not, it's not the,
True.
thing. So anyway, that's good. That's good. Now, I want to ask you one more thing. If late night, Oklahoma City,
Yeah.
you want some chicken wings, but you got to get smoked fried chicken wings, where do you go?
I know my stomach is gonna regret it for probably 2-3 days after, but I'm gonna probably go to Bobo's.
Right.
I got a weak stomach. I know it has nothing to do with their food and what they use. I just got a weak stomach.
If you're not introducing all of those celebrity friends of yours when you come by Oklahoma City to Bobo's Chicken, something.
It's tough during the season, man. I need my guys to be able to be available for the game. So you know what I mean?
That's right.
Yeah.
Bobo's Chicken. Okay, that's right. So you're a homegrown guy because nobody could answer those questions if they weren't. So it's the real deal. He's the real deal, y'all. The real deal. So listen, I wanted to. The reason, I mean, we can talk about the NBA and all that stuff and the games and all of the people that you know, but I want to center this conversation on the social justice stuff that you have involved yourself in of late. But before we do that, and get in there, because we're going to talk about that, because that's what I really want to talk about. Can you just give us a little bit of idea of your upbringing here in Oklahoma? I know you went through the Carl Albert feeder system and all of that, but can you give us a little bit about your upbringing?
Yeah, I mean, I tell people all the time, like, my sister and I, we went to Carl Albert, but everybody else in my family went to Star Spencer High School. And my church, when my grandfather was a pastor for 35 years, is on 50th and Post. So Carl Albert's on Post Road. Our church is on Post Road. So that was my life, going back and forth. And I was at church um, at least 4 or 5 days a week because my grandparents kept me most of the time growing up before I was, in school. So I was in church 4 or 5 days a week. And that's just, that's what it was. And so my father being a minister and, elementary school principal, I had a strict upbringing. They were, on me all the time and it kept me in line. And, I'm very thankful, especially when I look at, some of my friends and the way, their upbringing was. I'm very thankful and know that I'm fortunate because it doesn't happen for everybody the way it does,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
way it did for me.
yeah, yeah. We can only imagine knowing your Wanda and Lee. We know it was
Hmm.
good food, it was consistent, and it was
Hmm.
probably strict. It was probably strict.
Yep. Oh yeah. Oh, for sure. For
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. And I'm not going to ask you to give me any dirt on your dad. I may have asked him to give me a little dirt on you. I may have
That's
asked
cool. He ain't
him.
got none, but
He
that's
ain't
cool.
got he ain't got
He ain't got none. Nah.
That's good. That's good. All right. What about what about your pathway to the NBA, man? I think that'd be interesting to know.
Yeah. Funny you say that. We played in Oklahoma City this weekend, left there, went to Dallas. So this morning I flew from Dallas to Orlando with the team. But before I left, I got to see the guy that got me started in the NBA. He lives in Dallas. He was most recently with the Dallas Mavericks. And so going into my senior year, I kind of knew I probably had a better feel than some of uh, my friends my age that were playing basketball. I knew I wasn't going to be a high level professional basketball player. I had the opportunity, like some of them, to go play in Europe or some of these other places. But I knew it probably was going to be a stretch for me. And so I wanted to immediately start networking and trying to find people in the field that I wanted to pursue and being in the NBA. And at that time, late 1900s, early 2000s, we didn't have an NBA team in Oklahoma. So, me and my family, we didn't know anybody connected to the NBA. I didn't know, I wasn't friends with any NBA players or coaches or anything like that. So I knew I had to go out. So I saved up my money my whole summer before my senior year. And I went to a coaching clinic. It was like a shooting clinic put on by some NBA coaches and stuff like that in Chicago. And so I played at Southwestern in Weatherford, Oklahoma, which is a Division II school. And I go to this camp, and it probably cost me like $700 just for the camp, and then had to pay for my flight and all that stuff too. So I saved up like $1,000. I go to this camp, and it's me and it's probably like six guys that play high level Division I. So guys from Louisville, Notre Dame, and all of these guys were trying to prepare themselves to hopefully get drafted into the NBA the following year. So the way the structure was, they put all of those guys in rooms together at the hotel we were at, and they put me in a room with a coach from the Boston Celtics at the time.
Mm.
And so over the 3 days that we were there training, he and I, are going to lunch, spending time just having conversation, getting to know each other. And he took a liking to me and told me once I graduated college, he would help me get an internship in the NBA. And so I graduated May of 2004, and I moved to Boston and I started working for the Celtics in September of 2004.
Man, the power of connection, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Man, we could talk. I could talk all day. My friend Taylor Doe has just did and everybody should go look at this. I just did a recent TED talk on and then moments, and
Mm-hmm.
those people in our life that unlock opportunities, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you just happen to be rooming with somebody that unlocked an opportunity, right? You got to be ready.
Absolutely.
You got to be ready when the opportunity comes, but people have to unlock them for us, right?
Right.
That's really cool. So so you're good at connections, and you've used some of your new high-powered friends and high-profile friends to bring attention to social justice issues. And
Mm-hmm.
you've used that really effectively for the guy that's not in front of the camera all the time. but engaged. You really used it. I recognize you start using your platform in this way with Colin Kaepernick. Can you talk about how you ended up being like right now? People may not recognize it, but you're one of the national leaders in a lot of these the social justice movement that's happened, the ground movement of people and bringing attention to things.
Yeah, so growing up, like Huey Newton is like Michael Jordan to me. And so I'll never forget, the first time I saw the movie Panther, and I'm just, super inspired kid. But as a kid, you're not obviously as aware of the world. I'm not, because of, my parents, my upbringing. Most parents try to shield their children from some of these issues and let them be children. And so I wasn't, faced with a lot of stuff. We didn't have social media back at that time as well. So, there's really no way to, kind of release this stuff. But as I got older and more aware, I started working in the NBA right away. And people don't understand our, the dynamics of my work. Like they see our games and stuff like that. I just had a conversation with a close friend of mine that I was trying to see in Dallas, but like we literally work 7 days a week. Some people act like they work all the time. No, like we literally Sunday to Sunday, we either practicing, having a game, or we're flying somewhere and doing it all over again. It's nonstop, no weekends, no holidays from September to April. And that's if you don't make the playoffs. And so I don't, I didn't have time to be present before. But in 2019, um, because of the way the NBA works, our staff got fired after the playoffs. And so I was like, at that point, I was done with the NBA. I've been doing it since 2004, moved to LA, and I started training players privately, doing camps all over the world. I'm making good money living in LA, and I'm good. And so George Floyd happens. Um, he was murdered. And at that time, right before, when Colin Kaepernick basically got blackballed from the NFL, Kenny Stills was one of the other players that was kneeling with him. There was only a couple, Eric Reed being one of the others. And so Kenny Stills has a relationship with Colin. I have a relationship with Kenny, and we're talking about these issues all the time. Like, what can we do to make change? What can we do to start moving this needle the way we wanted to go? And formulating plans and ideas. And so, when after George Floyd was killed, I was still in Houston. Kenny was playing for the Houston Texans, and so we were marching and protesting because at that time I didn't have to be to work the next day. I didn't have a game. I didn't have practice. I'm on my own time, and so now I finally have the opportunity to be present. And we have social media, obviously, at this time. And so, right after George Floyd was killed, we find out about Breonna Taylor. And so, Breonna Taylor happens. She's murdered. At that time, I'm living in LA. So, I'm traveling from Los Angeles to Louisville every couple of weeks. So, the first time we went, we just had, a regular march. And then
Now,
from there,
were these marches that were wait a minute. Yeah, my thing popped up. Were these marches the kind of marches that you organized, or they were already pre-planned? You just kind of got into it.
yeah, so they were pre-planned. So the first one was actually a rally. It was really huge. We did it at the Capitol, and Jada Pinkett Smith was there. Common was there. A ton of celebrities flew in for this. Um, and so we were a part of that. And Until Freedom, Tamika Mallory's group put that on. And so Tamika Mallory spoke, Common spoke, Jada Pinkett spoke. And so a couple weeks later, we started to see that nothing was being done in Louisville about the case. And so that's when we started to do more. But the whole point of it was, because I wasn't in the NBA, this is the thing I'm more passionate about. I love basketball. I love the life that I'm able to live because of basketball. But that's what I'm most passionate about, being present for the people. And so being in basketball, being in the NBA is what opened the doors and allowed me to meet some of these celebrities, um, big time national activists that I'm close with now.
Yeah, man. And just when we went on, you had to take a call. There was about some breaking news, really. That we
Yeah.
might be able to talk about that later. And I know that since you're elevated the platform, that people think you're the person to connect with, right? Like if
Mm-hmm.
I got to get my case heard, and so
Yeah.
let me DM Irv Roland, and he could get this.
Yeah.
How do you discern which cases that
It,
you want to put your name behind?
that is tough. It's funny you say that because Kyrie Irving and I are really close. He's like a little brother to me, and we played them yesterday. But the day before that, we were on FaceTime for like 2 hours talking about different issues. And one thing I know that I'm very militant, and my first reaction is just, no justice, no peace right away, and then find out the facts later. Um, I get really rowdy about different issues, but at the same time, we do have to do our homework and understand the true facts before we put our name and our reputation on the line for every single thing. But usually, I do get one or two DMs a week. Do you mind hitting this person up for this? Do you mind doing that? And just recently, there was a young man in New Jersey where Kyrie's from. This guy is actually a cousin of Kyrie's best friend, and he was killed by the cops after having a mental health breakdown. And this was someone that did a ton of community work. Was out there helping young people, and there's a lot of people that aren't mentally well right now, all over the world. And I just don't feel like we should meet them with force, but that's what happened. And this young man lost his life. But it's just always something.
It's always something, man. It's always something.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me how? Because Julius Jones, I want to go to your relationship with Julius Jones, because I know we chatted a little bit at dinner the other night
Mm-hmm.
about Julius Jones. You have a special relationship with that, and then you also did quite a bit of work for Julius Jones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I've known Julius since I met Julius when I was 8 years old, playing basketball. He's a year older than me. And so Julius graduated in 98. I graduated in 99. And so after I graduated, that's when he was, charged with murder and, sentenced to life in prison and all that stuff. And he and I weren't like best friends. I knew him, he knew me, but we didn't like, we just started getting cell phones in 99.
Mm-hmm.
So we didn't, hang out. I didn't hang out with anybody. I played basketball, hung out with my little girlfriend. I sat at the house, but, I was never out and about like that. So we didn't have a close bond growing up. We just knew each other from sports. And then at that time, being 17, um, you're not aware of kind of the legal processes and some of the things that happen with people of color, um, in the legal process. And so at 17, it was kind of like, dang, I can't believe that happened. I knew the other young man involved. And at the time, I did believe that he did it because I knew his character, and
Mm-hmm.
I known him since we were kids as well. But you kind of lose touch with it because I'm 17. This happened. You think, oh, he was found guilty, so that's what it is. And then you go out throughout life. I go to college and start working in the NBA, and you kind of lose touch. And so got reattached to the case some years ago, and then at that time I was like, you know what, this is my opportunity, um, to try to start using my platform to help create change. And so when after I really it started to pick up steam because we're getting to the finish line of him being executed. I had just come from doing a 12 city uh, bus tour around the country, trying to get people activated to vote. So I'm with a lot of big time activists, and I'm telling them about the case. And so my reach is, pretty small, but by small reach, if you look at my followers, I have a lot of famous people that follow me.
Right.
And so when they see the things that I post, then they started, because a lot of them do this work full time. They see the stuff that I post and they start to research it. And then they start to post about it. And now their reach is 10 times more than mine. And now, we really got some momentum. So that's kind of how it happened. Was able to be part of a lot of, you know, cool demonstrations that I never thought I would, do in my lifetime, but I'm thankful that I was.
Yeah, yeah, man. It's really cool. And but let me ask you this. How do you in your business, it's you judge success, wins and losses,
Mm-hmm.
you know, times, faster, slower, all that kind of stuff. How do you judge success in this work in social justice?
Yeah, it's tough. It's really tough to judge true success. Like you would like to say, if you're able to get somebody off a death row, and stuff like that. I'll never forget. So Julius is the day he was supposed to be executed. Um, I was at practice. And so, most people know this. Julius had made calls, telling people goodbye and stuff like that. And I was optimistic that day that something would change. But I was doing my best just to stay on that line, stay positive, and not even consider the fact that it could go the other way. And so ESPN had scheduled to do a live interview with me right after the announcement. And so I was preparing myself mentally, because live is different, and this is ESPN. So I'm preparing myself mentally, and my Apple Watch starts to go off. And I see that, okay, he's not going to be executed, but he's going to be given life without the possibility of parole. And I do the interview, and my attitude is like one, I don't know, some kind of subdued. Like I'm not excited, I'm not upset, but I'm just like, in the middle somewhere. And my dad asked me about it, like, why didn't you seem like you were happy or whatever, or overjoyed on the television? I'm like, to me, I now realized because I had the opportunity to meet Brian Stevenson, and he talked about how people don't realize for people facing the death penalty, they would rather be killed and executed than have to spend life without the possibility of parole because there's no end in sight. I could live to be 70, I could live to be 110. Like that extra 40 years, like, you could, because it's built to make you go crazy.
Wow.
And so you're just sitting there playing with somebody's mind. And so I knew how Julius felt. He's not suicidal, but he's already been, robbed of this amount of time. And so I knew how he felt. So it's tough to judge that as a true win. I don't really have the ability to look at that as a true win. Like we look at it like we were able to gain a lot of national attention. We got a lot of celebrities um, involved and invested in the case. But at the same time, even with all that celebrity and all that influence, all that power, we weren't able to get him free.
Yeah.
So it's like it becomes, I know we'll get into this in a minute. It becomes almost, disheartening, deflating, to see this time and time again.
So how do you see your work? Is it the goal to eradicate racism?
Mm-hmm.
Is it just exposure to injustice? What is
Yeah.
the goal?
For me, my number one goal is to help, you know, help my people get to where we want to be. That's my number one priority is to help Black people. That's my number one priority. And, I wonder, people don't understand when you say that, especially white people, they take that as racist because if they were to say it, then, and I get that, but I just don't think they fully understand the way we've been done, the way we've been treated in this country. And there's not enough, men like me and you that are trying to help get us to where we're viewed as equal. And that's the ultimate goal, to get us to a place of, ultimate equality, ultimate equity, and everything that we're ultimately owed in this country.
Yeah. It's like that. Uh, all men were created equal in that founding document,
Yeah.
but for some reason they didn't understand what the meaning of all was.
Right. Right.
Right?
Right.
All means all, and we know that
Yeah.
now. But we built everything on a misunderstanding or misdefinition of all from the
Yeah.
beginning. And so now we're just trying to say, yeah. When we built that part of the system, we built it on that old all.
Right.
We want the system to be built on all.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, the people say they yell all lives matter. It's like, no, they don't. That's not how y'all act. We want it to, and that's why we're trying to be included. And we specify when we say Black Lives Matter, just to let you know, like we want to be included in the conversation. And I think for us to do that, we have to have, more Black men of influence, of means, or whatever, trying to ultimately coach our people up to help our people get eradicated, whatever the case may be. We have to use that, that little bit of influence that we have.
Right. And this does not mean now how does in the world that you're in,
Mm-hmm.
business is sports, is high power, how do they take this stance? Like you're working alongside and I know this, white men that you love and respect,
Mm-hmm.
but you use language like that and you have a mission like that. How do you have these conversations? Is it hard? Is it easy? Do you have to set aside intentional time to have these conversations? How do you do it?
Yeah, you know, I I get I've tried to mature and not, we talk about cancel culture and all of this stuff. Being religious helps because we worship a forgiving God, so we want to be like Him. And I'm always down to forgive. That's cool. But I think there's some people, white people, that uh, you just can't reach. You can't reach. They're too far gone, and they have no desire to have an understanding of who we are, what we deal with, or whatever other ethnicities and races. But I do often come across people that want to have conversations, and I try to give them grace because I'm like, if I didn't have any Black men in my life that uh, had the same last name as they kids, and um, the only time I saw them was on rap videos and um, in the news robbing somebody, and you just seeing all the negative stereotypes or whatever about us. All right, cool. If you don't know anybody, then maybe okay, maybe I give you a pass, and you have a reason to believe we're all that one way because that's all you ever see.
That's
We're from Oklahoma. Like there's a ton of places that they don't have any Black people at all. You
can
know,
can this is a good question. And I don't know it's a tough one, but can a person be anti-racist if in fact they don't have a relationship with any Black people? Is it
I
possible?
s- I think so.
Okay.
I think so. And the reason I say that is this: I had a friend reach out to me. not even a friend. That's a loose word. A kid I grew up with at Carl Albert. He now lives in North Carolina. For miles and miles, you won't see a black face. But we grew up together. He respects me, loves me, my other black friends that we grew up with. But I don't have his phone number. We connected over Facebook. But he, just because of where he lives and being part of the majority, he doesn't um, he doesn't live around any black people. He doesn't have any true black friends in the vicinity. But he was willing to have a conversation. When I asked him what could he do to help, he was willing to help, and I believe that his heart was because the person that I've always known, what did have a good heart. He was just ignorant and just wasn't, we weren't in the same vicinity. But I think you can. And the reason I say that is because, I have family members that are homosexuals, but I don't have friends that I'm calling on the weekend that are homosexuals, like, hey, let's link up this weekend and do X, Y, Z. Not because I'm homophobic. It's just we probably ain't gonna be in the same. You probably want to dance. I probably want to go eat bobos. You know what I mean? Like we're not doing the same thing. But anytime, there are people of the LGBT, I don't want to miss no letters, community, and they're dealing with something, I'm going to be one of the first people standing up for any type of class that I feel like is being discriminated against or whatever the case may be. So I think it is possible. I believe so.
Yeah, that's it's just it's I'm just trying to unpack that myself. Is why I asked
Yeah.
you. It's like, yeah,
Could be because you do have the person that says, "Oh, I can't be racist. I let two black people come in my house," and
right.
they probably do call them their friends. But we know a lot of people that we're only your friends because I work in the NBA, or you know what I mean. I got 1 million followers on social media, and you think it's cool to parade me around. Like I see that every day.
Right. And so that was another thought I had to ask you is like, man, everybody that you're friends with, right? All those people, in my opinion, and it's just in my thing, athletes don't really, because even though they're black, they don't catch it.
No.
They don't catch what the average Joe catches because they are athletes. How do
Mm,
you, how do you make this stuff real for them when they're not the one, they're getting the red carpet rolled out for them
yeah.
most of the time?
Yeah.
How do you help them really understand the magnitude of this?
It's really difficult, and it's one of the reasons in 2019 um, that I didn't want to come back to the NBA.
Mm,
And it's wild because the timing of that is important. So George Floyd was 2020.
yeah.
I was fired in 2019 from the Houston Rockets, or let go, contract not renewed, whatever, in 2019. So this is a year before. And when George Floyd happened, Breonna Taylor happened, um, you're aware that I was arrested and stuff in Louisville for Breonna Taylor.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about
Yeah, I
that.
had some, I had some NBA friends, reach out to me and ask me was I okay because
Yeah.
they didn't understand, whatever. And so one of my friends, I reached out to him. I said, "Man, be honest with me. When these individuals found out that I was arrested, what was their reaction?" And he told me one of them, who I've known a long time and spent a lot of time with, had the audacity to say, Irv was never on no black stuff when he was here, right? Mind you, again, this is 2019. So I was let go. This is a Googleable fact
Mhm.
in the 2018-2019 season. That was my last season with the Houston Rockets. If you look at my Instagram posts from 2019 down, you will see me almost every game because we have, content team,
Mhm.
videographers, photographers that catch us throughout the day. All my beanies, all my hats had a fist on them. We played at Golden State, which at the time was in Oakland. When we played in Oakland, I had a custom pair of shoes that an artist friend of mine painted Huey Newton on the shoes because Huey Newton is from Oakland, and that was a whole year prior, right? So these are all the things. I did an interview about a player that I worked with on on the news station in Oklahoma City in I think 2017. Yeah, it was 2017. Um, so this is 3 years before I did the interview wearing a ball cap with Colin Kaepernick kneeling on the hat. Like I have a post where I have Free Huey, and it's a Black Panther. Um, but then I had to realize like I can't be offended by that because when they think Black Panther, they think Michael B. Jordan. You know what I
Mm,
mean? They're not thinking these soldiers over here. And so I let it ride. But again, like you said, I wasn't on no black stuff or sitting here talking about real stuff with y'all because their depth only goes as far as basketball, girls, and strip clubs. So
wow.
we can't have any type of conversation of substance because whatever I'm saying is going to be over your head. And so that's why, I mean, Kyrie and I have been close since before he came into the NBA, but that's why he and I to this day have a close bond. That's why Kenny Stills and I have a close bond is because we understand. A lot of people make fun of OJ Simpson. I'm not black, I'm OJ. They talk about Kanye West and being a Trump supporter, but there's more OJs and Kanyes than what we realize.
Mm, man, that's a
Those two are just two of the most vocal.
boy, that is interesting conversation right there, Irv. That is interesting conversation because athletes, although hey man, I don't even want to. I'm not even going to because I might get you in trouble talking about athletes, and you still have to go back to
Go ahead, I'm good.
to
I'm good.
talk about them. But I love how you choose to use your platform, and I love how you choose to educate them through your friendship and the dialogue, and you bring them along. Uh, Tell me about the arrest because here in Oklahoma City, that's where we were really praying for forever. Like I didn't know your head space. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know. I don't know if you're. I mean, your dad don't talk about you like that. None of us
Mhm.
really talk about kids like that. But when I'm thinking he got arrested, what is he doing? Is he this kind of crowd or is he this kind of crowd? Because as a police officer,
Mhm.
I know there's protesters and
Right.
agitators. Yes, right.
Yeah. So the arrest was, we didn't know that we were going to get arrested. We knew it was a possibility that we could get arrested. So everybody was kind of prepared for it, that it could go that way.
Yeah.
And the thing about, um, hold on one second. The thing about Until Freedom and, the group that I do stuff with, everything is planned out and calculated. And Kenny and I knew, okay, we're gonna go back to Louisville. This is a possibility. Um, Him being, one of the leaders in the NFL of these issues. Me being out of the NBA and having the time, it was just we felt like we had to do it. And you know how it is, like we had been to Louisville a couple times. Met Breonna Taylor's family, her mom, Tamika Palmer. I just had her little sister drove up from Louisville 2 weeks ago. We played in Indianapolis to come to the game. But you start to become close with these families, and then you start to see like, man, this could be me. This could be my family member, and so you become even more attached to it. So we felt like, all right, cool, we got to be present. So we go to Louisville, and quick side story: I get on Facebook every morning only to see whose birthday it is because I really do my best to stay attached to everybody from home, and you know how it is. I forget all these birthdays, and
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't ever want to think people to think I'm big time or something like that. So I do that every day.
Yeah.
That day it happened to be a buddy of mine's birthday that lives in Miami. He's a former NBA player. Him, his wife, his son, they live in Miami, Florida. Text him happy birthday. So I go and we have a training for our activation that day. So I'm at the training. Mind you, you had to sign an NDA. This is like we in the trenches. Like we got our security around us. We only roll with Muslim brothers because of their discipline and their attention to detail. So we got like 40 Muslim brothers with us, and they guarding everything because there's white supremacists that had kind of been following the group. So we signed these NDAs. We all in line to go into the meeting room. In the meeting room, they telling us, "Hey, we're gonna meet here. We're gonna walk here and just trust us." Blah blah blah. That morning, the guy that I text, his wife texts me out of nowhere and says, "Look up at the door." And it was just random because I only talk to them a couple times a year. I used to live in Miami, and
Yeah.
when I'm there, we talk. When we play there, I talk. But I had just texted him that morning, "Happy birthday." She texts me hours later in Louisville at this venue, talking about look up at the door, and it just caught me off guard. I look up at the door, and she's standing right there. So I go talk to her. "Why are you here? Why aren't you in Miami? Whatever."
Yeah.
Her nephew was killed by the police in Indianapolis. And so all of these mothers of these victims have formed a little group, a support group,
Yeah.
and they had driven down from Indianapolis to support Tamika Palmer, Breonna Taylor's mother, in our activation that day. But because her nephew's murder wasn't on camera, it wasn't getting national news.
Mm.
And it was just something random. It's just one of those reminders like this could always be us.
Man.
And for me, if I had the time, if I had the means, I'm gonna always try to be present. But we march. We started at this park, and the cops by that time, probably tapping some phones. They knew exactly where we were. So we meet, and it's about 100 people, and so the cops bring the helicopter and they following us from our meeting point. So we start marching. And we get to this, pretty nice neighborhood. Like imagine walking through Nichols Hills or something like that. So we marching and nobody knows where we going. We just following the leaders of the group. So we finally get to this house, and one of the leaders jumps up and says, "Hey y'all, this is the home of Daniel Cameron, the Attorney General of Kentucky, the man who, refuses to fire these and arrest these cops." And by the time we get to the house, the riot team comes from the opposite direction. So they got their, riot gear on, they got their batons, all of this stuff, and it's multiple helicopters in the air. So at this time, it's a really tense scene. And so Kenny and I, we had one of our friends come with us just so they could communicate with our family and whatnot. And so we finally get to the house. They tell us, "Hey, if you don't want to, possibly get arrested, kind of veer off to the side now." And so we had probably a little over a third of the group kind of moved off to the side, but they still cheering us on and stuff like that. So the cops are coming, and we kneel in his line. We all sit in his line. Silent, peaceful protest. The cops come and they bring the paddy wagon stuff or whatever, and then they arrest us one by one, and then we all get in the back of these vans. It was 6 people in the back of the van, with the little thing divider in the front and a partition in between us, and we in there. A couple brothers were claustrophobic, and it was pretty crazy. They take us off to jail. Takes us, a little over an hour and change to each be booked and processed, and we spent about 18 hours in there.
Man,
Yeah.
I'm really I admire your dedication to the cause, and then the way you choose to do it. You're not doing it in a reckless way. You're aligning with. How would you tell the ordinary Joe? What do we do?
Mhm.
I don't have a big following. I don't have a voice. I can hashtag, but what's the marching orders? Irv, give us the marching orders before we go.
I think one of the most important things that people can do is have conversation. Um, I think, one of the things that's frustrating is for me being a black man, black people not being able to get on the same page. I think you have too many people with hidden agendas. Everybody wants to be the man. I don't want to be Scottie Pippen in the movement. I want to be Michael Jordan. Like, everybody can't be out in front. And I think that we all can get on the same page. We have a lot of black families with means, with power, with influence that can start to move us in the right direction. Um, I think we need to stop glorifying ignorance the way we do. I think you know it, it's tough for me when I had this conversation with my dad a lot. I can handle rap music, because I just like music. I like the art form. I like the wordplay. But I know that there's a lot of people that can't. We look at John Morant. John Morant grew up similar that I did, and probably more money. He had a full basketball court in his backyard. I had this slab that my dad, could afford and put together for me. He had a full court. They could play 5-on-5. So they had land, which means they had money, and both parents in the house. But because of wanting to be something that he's not, and something that seems cool in our culture, his life and his career is trending in another direction. So imagine the kid that only has one parent in the home, that's working all the time, that wants to be accepted. Imagine where they're trending. So I think we need more powerful black voices, men and women, to start to steer our young people in a better direction. And then, like I said, for white people, just having conversation, not letting things slide that they think are out of line or inappropriate, letting their white family members that aren't exposed to men like us, letting them know that we do all right too. I think
Right.
that's important. Yeah.
Yeah. Man, I appreciate how you use your platform. I want to get your take real quick on the Louisville report, the report that came out. I mean,
Yep.
while we were coming on, they were talking about it on the news, is that in the town, that Breonna Taylor's murder spurred an investigation by the Justice Department. The Justice Department just released a report that's saying, hey man, this is oppressive action by law enforcement in this town. What's your reaction since you've been spent so much time and they actually been arrested by the police department?
Yeah, it's wild. So when I want to say that one of the last times I was in Louisville, there was by the jail. We had another activation where we had a group get arrested, and what we would do is after everybody would get arrested, everybody would have to wait. We would each wait outside the jail until the last person got out. But right across the street, literally right across the street from the jail, was a park. And there were kids that marched in that park. I don't want to get it wrong, but I believe a little bit over 200 days um, that marched at the park. And there were, young people, I'm talking about early 20s to teenagers, that were just, on fire for the cause. And so there was a young man, 21 years old, and powerful, voice, um, just a natural leader. And he was one of the main kids that was out there every single night.
Mm-hmm.
And one night, there was someone that was shot by the police. So I was randomly in Utah with my family for Thanksgiving, and I get on a group chat that, because I follow him on Facebook, and he posts that this kid was shot and he wanted everybody to meet at the scene. Literally 30 minutes later, in my group chat with these activists that I'm close with, they say that he was shot. Somebody tried to rob him and he was shot. And he goes to the hospital. Less than an hour later, he's declared dead. And so Travis, he didn't have a nice car. He didn't have nice clothes. He didn't have fancy clothes. There was no one to believe. There was no reason to believe that he had any amount of cash on him. Like you wouldn't look at him and think that's who I'm going after, right? So he was announced dead, and we go back to the funeral, and it was just this dark, even darker cloud over the city because we truly didn't believe that this was something random.
Mm.
We believe that I believe, call me conspiracy theorists, that it was somebody that didn't like that he was out there leading, and they believed that if they did this, it would shut it down, and that's what it did. It ended up pretty much shutting it down, and kids didn't feel safe. They didn't have a leader anymore. Kind of in a vein of like a Fred Hampton.
Right.
They don't want us to have, leaders. That's the biggest threat is that that young voice, black voice. So I'm not surprised one bit that this is happening. I think Louisville, with all due respect, is a very crooked place. And I pray to God that I'm never, having to move my family there.
Yeah. And I appreciate how you get down and your perspective. It is really, really cool. And I think we need to have more conversations offline because I think
Yeah, we can do that.
yeah, more conversations offline and to get kind of my views on law enforcement, and then how my views have kind of not changed, but how I'm reimagining what justice looks like and how we in law enforcement ought to be listening and having conversations, uncomfortable conversations with people that have been feeling and saying that they've been feeling
Yes,
oppressed
sir.
at the hands of law enforcement and the criminal justice system or the criminal legal system at large. And so I think we would have great conversation. And
For
I
sure.
think we were on our way to have a great conversation at dinner the other night.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
just had so much going on. But so I thank you so much for carving out time. And I know you got some training and some sleeping and you just got off the plane and all that kind of stuff. Fantastic. You're everything that I thought you were, that I dreamed you were. And just know that we've been praying for you. I've been praying for you. My family's been praying for you. And I love your parents, man. So thanks for being on Conversations with Cuba, bro.
No problem. I appreciate you having me.
Oh, man, thanks. I appreciate it. Have a good night.
All right.